Hello everyone, my name is Lillygol Sedaghat. I'm a National Geographic Explorer and storyteller. I'm here to facilitate a moderated discussion with Mr. Gerald Neighbor, who is the project manager of the new plastics economy at the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. We regret that we can't have this conversation in person during the symposium today. However, I strongly believe that the 6 questions that we have in line today are really going to be able to add significant value to the conversation here in Bangkok today and moving forward to circular economy initiatives in Asia in general. So with that, I would like to introduce Mr. Gerald Neighbor.
Thank you, Lily, and thank you for having me, and thank you for allowing me to still address your questions and the audience in this way. And also thank you, Koen Supatanatpong, for having such a great symposium organized. And again, I'm really sorry I can't be there. I wish I was, because I've seen the program and I've heard the lineup of speakers, and I think it's going to be an amazing event. So I hope to be the next time there with you.
And where are you calling from right now, just so we have a little geographic sense in the room?
I'm in the United Kingdom, in a very small island in the southern part of it. That's where the Ellen MacArthur Foundation is based. So that's where I'm calling with you right now.
Great. Well, thankfully, the technology works, and we're going to get started and launch right in. So, Gerald, can you please tell us what is a circular economy?
Yes, I'm happy to. And circular economy is, in the one-liner, is an economic system that is restorative and regenerative by design. And that is quite a mouthful. And the way to understand it is to understand that the linear and current economic system that we have is quite wasteful. Whatever product you think about, even if it's food or cars or cell phones, everything is produced. So we take the raw materials out of the ground, we make the product out of it, and then we dispose of it in the end of life. And that creates a lot of waste, a lot of negative things to it as well. The iconic example of this take, make, dispose system that we've built is, in my opinion, the plastic packaging that we are so familiar with. It is, it's greatly designed. It's very often very aesthetic as well. It's high functional, but we maybe use it only for a couple of seconds if we drink some water or if we have some food on the way, and then we throw it away. And more organizations and people start to understand that this system cannot work for the long term, and we already see so many issues with it. How the negative results of it. So if you want to rethink that system, and we want to build an economy that is actually fit for the 21st century, and beyond actually, then the circular economy is our solution or our answer to it. And there's to talk about understanding, there's 3 principles that we talk about always that are like key to everything that we do and key to the circular economy. The first one is we want to design out waste. And that's an important part. So we don't only focus on, let's say, recycling only, or thinking about how the materials after usage are maybe can loop it back. We have to start at the beginning, from the onset. So the design of the products, the design of the packaging, how can it fit the system that it will not be waste at the end, but it can be reused or looped back into a new plastic packaging or new materials. So again, if we think about the single-use plastic packaging, if we design it to something that can be reused over and over again, that fits the system much better and will not lead to much waste at all. And we already see great examples there. There's, for instance, an ice cream container designed that can be refilled. So you use it once, you can refill it. And the benefit of it is that it even holds your ice cream frozen for a lot longer. So if you go for a picnic or something, there's a lot of benefits to be gained through going to a circular economy. So that's the first design principle. The second one is about keeping products in use. So we're not disposing of it after use. We're trying to remanufacture it or reuse it or recycle it in the end, so we can close the loops in materials and products, keep them in our economy and never let them leak into our environment. That's the whole concept behind it. And lastly, and that's the third principle, it should regenerate the natural system. We cannot sustain our economy on extracting raw materials from the environment and building that. It has to be built on renewable materials, on renewable energy, renewable materials such as bioplastics or compostable plastics as such. So the nutrients in that example, the nutrients flow back into nature after usage, or or renewed in being recycled or in other ways. So those are And those are the three principles that we always talk about when we try to explain a circular economy.
So that third principle actually feeds into my next question really well. So what does a circular economy for plastics look like?
Yeah, and thanks for that question, because my work is indeed, I work mostly on plastic and plastic packaging, and we have seen that the system around plastic packaging, and I already talked about it, the single-use nature of most of it is actually a broken system. It's not functioning. We have an estimate of 8 million of tons leakage into our oceans, and you yourself in your expedition have seen, how big rivers transport all of that waste into the ocean. So that's like where it all ends up in. So there's a lot of leakage. But even before that, if we talk about the waste that we produce, 50% of the plastic packaging is being burned or landfilled. So that never goes back to plastic packaging again. Only 2% ends up back in plastic packaging. So it is clearly a system that is broken and is not functioning in a circular weather. So if we want to rethink this system, we have developed a vision for a circular economy for plastics, and there's 5 key elements to that. The first thing is about, again, the design aspect. If we want to design a plastic packaging, what do we not need? Is it about maybe a certain aspect of your packaging, maybe things that can come off, things are loose, maybe certain colors, certain additives, certain labels, things that we don't really need, and we can replace that with maybe packaging free or reusable packaging, or they cannot be recycled at all because of the color again or their size. The existing recycling infrastructure cannot cope with it. Then secondly, we shift to that reuse model, so go away from the single use to a reuse. That's an important feature as well of our work, and we just launched a booklet on reuse, which is available on the website. And so if people want to find out more, to be inspired into really rethinking how we deliver our products, our food and our drinks to our consumers, you can find it on our website. Then thirdly, all of the packaging that we do produce is fit for a system that can loop it back in. So all the packaging should either be recyclable, reusable, or compostable. That's that's the third one. Fourth is we decouple the plastic packaging from the fossil and finite resources. So that's probably to your question. So this is where renewable feedstock comes in. Bioplastics or compostable plastic is also part of the vision, of course, but a big part of the vision is about actually utilizing the existing packaging and recycle them efficiently so they actually become plastic packaging again. And lastly, if you build a system where things loop and are rotated, they have to be free of hazardous materials, of course. So you cannot cycle hazardous chemicals back into the system. So those have to be phased out. So those 5 points are core to our vision of a circular economy for plastics.
So that sounds all super incredible and really, really important, considering the transition that we're making as we emerge from the previous genre to now what's called the Anthropomorcine time. But I'm curious, so what is the Ellen MacArthur Foundation doing through this new plastic circular economy initiative to make this CE, or circular economy for plastics, a reality?
Yeah, that's of course, I think you also talk about yourself as a storyteller. We also talk about ourselves as storytellers. We tell the story of a circular economy and we want to create understanding of it and people to get enthusiastic about it, build the opportunity and be inspired, but we can redesign our system. We can make it a better one, so to speak. But of course the crux is, can we, from that story, make it a reality and implement it? So our work on the plastics has been that we, after we've developed this vision, we went out and we talked to the brand owners, the packaging producers, the retailers, and to see if that made sense. And a lot of them said, yeah, this is something I want to work on as well. So we decided last year in October to truly make this a global initiative and a global mobilization of the whole value chain in plastics to work towards that vision. So we launched the global commitment, and that is a commitment of basically 2 things. One, it's that vision, and everybody who signs that global commitment endorses the vision, says, yeah, this is what I want to work towards. And secondly, if you are producing plastics, you sign up to commitments and specific targets that by 2025, so we have about 7 years left, 2025, you actually want to change the way you deal with packaging. That's quite you could say successful. We launched it in October last year. We currently now have more than 400 organizations who actually signed that commitment, who represent about 20% of the global volume of plastic, so that's quite a significant amount. And that's the largest retailers, the largest brands there, and also the largest packaging producers already there, showing and making the commitments, and showing the wider value chain that this is what they want to do, and they want to now reach out and see how they can implement that change. And yeah, so that is quite successful, and it is inspiring to see that something is possible on a global scale to unite so many different organizations, even competitors who have, competing typically in the retail space, so to speak, about this, to work together and set the same vision. And so we see increasing transparency, disclosure on volumes that they produce. We see quite a lot of pilots on reuse that I mentioned before. We see organizations that targets on recycled content, so that is the average, global average is about 2%, as I said before, and now the average we have now with all of the signatories who signed the global commitment is up to 25% already. So we want to, and of course, see if we can push that further. So it truly is a cross value chain mobilization on a global scale to make this vision happen. And really excited to bring this forward.
If an organization, say here in Thailand, wanted to make that global commitment, what would they need to do? Go to your website, or how does it work?
Our website, or reach out to us, indeed. So what we typically do is if an organization is interested, we engage with them, and we want to understand a bit about their business. And signing is free, so it's just a matter of you sign, your CEO or your top level senior management puts a signature under the fact that one, you endorse a vision, and two, you commit to certain targets specific for your industry. So if you're a recycler, we ask you to increase the capacity on recycled content. If you are a brand or a retailer, we ask you to look into the 4 aspects of elimination, reuse, recycled content, in a nutshell. It's in that sense, it's all about understanding that this is again the vision you want to work towards, and with those commitments, you make them public. And we also now are developing the framework to start reporting on progress against those commitments, because that, of course, is quite important. It's not only words on paper, hey, I want to do this, but we have to actually show the wider community and the value chain and all the public that action is being done and people are taking this serious. So progress against those commitments will be reported on every year. And that's the whole framework for anyone to sign. So we're open for anyone, also in Thailand or wherever, anywhere else, to make those commitments and join this network of leaders transitioning this economy.
That's really great. Can you clarify the website so that everyone perhaps can write it down? Sure.
So there's www, of course, and then newplasticseconomy.org is the website, and the org is ORG. And that's where you can find all of the material, all the research that we've done before, the global commitment itself, and all the other stuff that we're trying to work towards, collectively with the industry.
Wonderful. So I want to move a little bit away from industry, more towards government, because we have many different types of people in the room here today. So how does circularity meet the needs of different types of governments in the world?
Yeah, it's great to have that question, and I didn't explicitly mention that, but the global commitment also is a public and private initiative. So we have the whole value chain of the businesses, but also we have more than 16 governments now signed up, from national governments such as the United Kingdom, France, but also cities have signed up. So it is, again, we need both organizations and both powers, so to speak, to transition this economy. So if we look, we as the foundation, we work a lot with businesses, but also with government. So we know a little bit about their agenda and all of the issues that they face and what they want to build, how they want to build their better society, really. And the circular economy builds or allows for, let's say, new ways of looking at growth and prosperity, which has to be, by definition, an economic one, but also a social and environmental one. We cannot just single out economy anymore. So to make that inclusive, and depending on what government have, if you're a city or government, you may have goals towards, building economic growth, or you want to build more jobs, or less pollution, or livable cities, or better mobility. All of those aspects typically are are, the circular economy is a solution to develop those goals and build this society where all of the material flows coming into your country or city, utilize them better. Don't dispose of them after you're done, but find ways to loop them back in. Find different business models of reuse or sharing. You become way better as a city or country to live off those resources and don't simply flow them through and dispose of them, but utilize them better and to build more resilience, reduce your pollution, and create more jobs and economic growth.
So right now we're located in Thailand, and there's a lot of interest in this room about building a circular economy, not only in this country, but in this region. Because there's been a lot of reports about plastic pollution. There's concerns that most of the rivers that are putting plastic into the oceans come from this area and this region. But this is also an area that has the capacity to do so much good and already is doing some pretty incredible initiatives with CE. So I guess the question I want to pose to you is, what is Asia's role in the global circular economy?
Yeah, I guess the question by definition gives you the answer. It's a global circular economy, so every person, every business, every government has to play a role in it and is asked to join that transformation. It is systemic change, cannot be done by one individual or one organization by definition. So unite forces and unite powers is what it all comes down to. So we have a team in China that has been looking at the possibilities of a circular economy in China and developed some research on that as well. And it was really interesting to see that the Ellen MacArthur Foundation is only 10 years old. Or not even 10 years old. And when back in the day, if you would go online and search for the term circular economy, you wouldn't get much back 10 years ago, apart from some documents in Chinese documents, where already in the vision of economic growth, a concept of circular economy was already embedded in the way how they would build their economy and how they deal with resources. So I'm hopeful that this concept is not completely new, but it's just at the right time to inspire new ways of thinking about what we've built and tapping into maybe older ways of how we look into our society and how we look to how we want to collaborate together. I think the big really important is to, and that's what we advocate a lot, is that it has to be an upstream focus by definition. If you only look at recycling or dealing with waste, and we know, of course, as you said, there are some big issues in Asian regions where a lot of leakage of plastics and other materials into oceans or environments, but solving that on itself is a big task, but also redesigning how we even got there. So rethinking what organizations are designing, what they're selling, how they engage with consumers, what policies in place to allow them to do that, etc. So that is a big need to do that. And basically what we stand for now in the last 10 years, we've seen that the idea of a circular economy has mobilized, so how we call it. People across the globe understand it and see that this has so much potential, and now we want to transition to this scaling exercise, really bringing this to market quicker in a larger sense. That's what we aim to do, and also in Asia. I think there's some fertile grounds to bring this really quickly to market.
So, talking about scale, what needs to be done in Asia in order to make the full transition to a circular economy?
Yes, I guess what we've learned in the past, and partly through talking about it a lot, going out to all kinds of communities, but also the work on the plastics, what I just described. How do you truly get global transition, industrial transformation happening? There's a couple of things that's key. And the one thing that goes beyond saying, and I think that's also why this symposium is such a great thing. You need to bring all the stakeholders together and share ideas and talk about it, so the understanding grows, and the more alignment, I guess, what needs to be done also improves. So that awareness and understanding is absolutely key, and it has to go to the public, but also to your employees. If you're a big multinational, you have thousands of employees, get them also to understand what they can do, what's their role. Systemic change is what we're talking about, transformation. No one can do it on its own, so it has to involve everyone in the room. That's a key second point. always we see in every transformational transition, so to speak, there's always a leader or leaders who take the first step. So you have to identify them and work with them and enable them to make that first step so they can show it can be done and what needs to be done. So amplifying that role is really important. And with leaders, that is the next point, is like a leader has an idea of what is he or she wants to work towards. That vision, of plastics or a circular economy in general, or a circular economy for a city, what is that vision? So if you can talk about it and elaborate that clearly, you can get all the stakeholders behind it and mobilize towards that solution. Yeah, and lastly, and then that's what I come back to, like convene everyone around that vision, around that idea of sharing ideas, such again this symposium is doing. I think that is, that's core to everything that we do, and yeah, I'm really excited to see that this is already happening and bringing more and more people to the table.
I mean, I think to pretty much cap on what you're saying and summarize here is that the key to make the transition is collaboration and taking risks and being willing to try to move from a linear industrial model that focuses on the economy to also taking into consideration the social and environmental elements that exist in the world and in our systems. So I think this is a wonderful conversation in the right direction to really get people to start thinking about that vision element that you're talking about. And maybe perhaps the vision is different for the cultural context of Thailand, but ties directly into the concept of circular economy for the world. Yeah. So with that, I just want to give a big thank you for joining us halfway across the world, and hopefully you'll be able to come meet us again here in Bangkok soon. Do you have any final thoughts that you want to share with the audience today?
Question. I think what I would say to the audience for today is the task at hand is quite big and can feel sometimes a bit like overwhelming. But I guess if you build upon the enthusiasm in the room and the shared needs for transition, that will give you the idea like we can make this happen, and believing in that it can be done is what drives us all. So yeah, good luck today, and again, I hope to be with you the next time. Thank you very much.